derived from the desert of Palestine in a very bad time in human history. Now, and just because they were there first, they think they own everything, and they think they have the right to tell you what you can think, who you can sleep with, what you can eat, what you can read. And they claim the right to make you afraid, even to read, in the United States of America this year. So I don't want to hear from anybody that my book says, well, don't judge religion by its extremes. Okay? Don't do that.
Well, we would distinguish, say, the cowardice of the Archbishop of Canterbury from the murderous violence of, say, Ahmed Zawahiri. Would that be a fair distinction?
No, because the Archbishop has prearranged his capitulation to them. He thinks they're people of faith. The Archbishop of Canterbury says, I don't care if there are schools in England, this is happening now, that are run by Zawahiri supporters. I don't mind it, as long as you allow special schools for Christians and Jews. And also special different schools for Protestants and Catholics. If you allow faith schools, we'll allow them to have their faith schools. Cultural suicide. Cultural suicide. Don't let it happen to you. Don't let it happen where you live. Look at how wonderfully it worked. You know it very well. What happened in Northern Ireland when it was allowed to segregate Protestant and Catholic schools. After all, they have different faiths. Oh, they do? I thought they were both Christian. I can't arbitrate this. No, they should have separate schools. They should never meet, never intermarry, never socialize. Beautifully that worked out.
And how?
Now let's have it for Jews and Muslims too on the mainland. Let them all lie to their children. Let them all give their special myth. Let them all say to them that they're different. Let them not tell them that they're members of a civil society or a country or a nation. Let them denominate themselves by faith. Can't wait to see what happens. I think I know what's coming. I don't want my beloved country of birth to be turned into some fucking Lebanon by people of faith. I don't want it. I'm going to fight it too. And you should get ready to fight it when they try it in your case. Don't allow this. Putting the word faith in front of something is no excuse for barbarism and cruelty and ignorance and stupidity. Just as putting the word reverend in front of a stupid name like Falwell or Sharpton doesn't mean you should be on MSNBC. Learn to resist it because you're going to need to.
Well, Christopher,
this is about you.
I'm right there resisting it with you as a...
And the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Of the values I learned in Catholic school. I'll be there with you, resisting it because of the values I learned in Catholic school.
You will, and you should, because after all, the Archbishop of Canterbury, until who you mentioned as a bland, a benign
bloody
figure,
prod, yes.
who looks in his own person at present, this Welsh comedian, Rowan Williams, he looks exactly like a sheep. He's supposed to look like a shepherd, but he looks like a sheep instead. One of my earliest uneases, by the way, was, why do I have to call myself a lamb the entire time? I'm not a sheep. I don't want to be called a sheep. Why do they call me a member of a flock?
Sure.
Isn't that kind of a tip-off? But anyway, this sheep-faced figure would, until 70 years ago, would have said that a member of your church could not serve in Parliament,
right?
Could not be the editor of the London Times, would not be able to be a lawyer or practice this. If you're a Catholic kind of Christian, we forbid you by law to hold any kind of serious office or to take a degree at Oxford University. When the present Queen of England, Ms. Mirren, dies, at the moment of her death, here's what you have to understand. At the moment of her death, because Tim is asking a very serious question. He's asking it in a humorous way, but it's a very serious question. When she dies, her slobbering, chinless dauphin of a son will become, not just the head of the state, this is what it is not to have a secular constitution.
He'll become a defender of your faith.
He will become the defender of the faith, the head of the church, and the head of the armed forces at the moment of her death. This is what you get when you found a national church on the family values of Henry VIII.
Well, you'll get no argument from me on that.
But it's considered by us to be. I'm no longer. I mean.
No, but you were an anti-monarchist.
I've been a Republican all my life, but
Yes.
this is a Republican not just for England, but also for Ireland, for the cruelly partitioned by and maimed and amputated by the British monarchy, by the forces of the Crown, as you would say.
The forces of the Crown.
But this is a preposterous state of affairs that no intelligent person could conceivably agree to unless it was sanctified, unless they were told, well, God wants it this way. And I know we're getting to the end of our...
We are coming, but there's two things I want to...
Don't listen to people who say that religion may not be true, but it makes people behave better.
I was going to avoid that point.
Religion isn't true, and it makes people behave worse and say stupid things they wouldn't say if they had senses about them.
It makes some people behave better, and it makes some people behave worse. Just a couple small points, and then I was going to ask you to read something before we went to questions here.
Oh, goodness. Goodness says anything.
Just a couple small points. One in correction and one to help you out for further arguments.
I knew he was going to be like
Catholics
this.
were never enjoined to eat fish on Friday. They were prohibited from eating meat, and so ate fish by choice. So you might there'll doubtless be another printing. You've missed your.
No, it's a serious point.
You've also missed You've also missed one of your great opportunities, since you're very fond of Tertullian.
Yes.
And I think not since a very ancient English Jesuit of my acquaintance I met anybody who quoted Tertullian quite as much as you do. But you've missed his most extreme pronunciamento, which is that any woman who swallowed semen in the course of oral sex had committed cannibalism. And I find it shocking that you've missed this point. I mean, it's so good. And Tertullian is, for those of you who've been spared the lectures of their right to life movement cousins, as I have not, you would find Tertullian comes up a lot in their arguments. But he is a remarkably, like a lot of these guys, a remarkably unreliable guide to sexual ethics, I think, or at least I hope so. In any event, this is a.
How did he know? No, never mind.
No. Oh, you also get Aquinas just a bit wrong.
About?
But
I always want to know, what were they thinking about when they wrote this? It's always good to know what they're thinking about.
They were thinking about the most extreme examples they could make in support of their arguments. Well, sort of what we're talking about here tonight. But
Aquinas did say Aquinas did say and believe that the whole human was contained in every sperm. He thought the woman was only the bearer.
No, that's not quite right. What he said was, actually, Aquinas is quite interesting on this question, because he believed in a process called ensoulment, and that he believed, in fact, that abortion was licit until the child quickened in the womb, at which point ensoulment had occurred. Now, he did believe that male children quickened at 3 months and female children at 6. But that's another kind of problem.
Who doesn't know that?
Yeah, who doesn't know that? But what's interesting about all this, and it comes to what I'm going to ask you to read, is that Aquinas got his biology from a source at the very heart of the moral reasoning project that you now recommend. Aquinas didn't get his biology from his colleague Zigerud Brabant at the University of Paris. He didn't get it from Albertus Magnus. He got it from Aristotle. Whole, by way of somebody you and I both admire, Averroes. Something to ponder. Anyway, I wonder if you'd read this passage. And
maybe say anything about the previous.
Go right ahead.
No, because we're trespassing on their time.
Yes.
I would simply say Aquinas did believe that there was a whole person inside each sperm, at least in potentia.
In potentia, yes, but not actual, because no soul.
And Alistair McGrath, who the Christians seem to now, at least the Protestants believe is the champion, who I'm going to debate from Oxford in a few months says that Tertullian did not say credo quia absurdum. He never actually said that. He said, borrowing from Aristotle, that there are some cases where the extreme improbability of a story makes it more likely that it's true. Mm-hmm. Well, these are as I began by saying, what's wonderful about writing a book and going out and discussing it is you refine your argument and you hope to refine others.
But is that not argument from us? That's from Aristotle. It's from the Poetics.
Yes, but I don't think that finally that anything that they got back from the Greeks was just returned to them. I mean, it had to come back by enormously sinuous routes from Andalusia and Baghdad to Peter Abelard, where they had for so long denied themselves the possibility that there could have been the Nicomachean ethics or any other discussions of morals before Jesus Christ. How could it be that there could be any ethical knowledge?
Do you remember Erasmus's great remark upon reading Socrates for the first time? When Erasmus read, he didn't have Greek, so when he finally read Socrates there in the High Renaissance in Latin, he read it and he wrote in his journal, "A pagan wrote this, and yet it has justice, truth, and mercy. I can hardly restrain myself from saying, Saint Socrates, pray for me."
Well, that's beautifully phrased. And so this really will be my last word before we hand it over. I have a challenge that I've put on the Christianity Today website, which has been very kind in inviting me to debate and exchange every day of this trip, and with Douglas Wilson, who you probably know. And I've put it everywhere else. It's simply this. Any of my antagonists, and I can't wait to see how the challenge eventuates, has simply to do the following. They must, and this includes you, my dear, they must come up with a moral statement made or a moral action performed by a believer, it gives them a huge range of possibilities, that could not have been made or not have been performed by a non-believer. So, I'm not leaving until 9. And I won't leave while anyone can say I didn't answer a question. So that's my challenge. And thank you very much for prompting me. And by the way, thank you very much for all this.
Yeah.
And what do you want me to read?
I thought maybe you could just read the start of that chapter, actually, which is quite good. And before you do, I do think that you're a little light on the heavy lifting done by the great triumvirate Aquinas, Averroes, and Maimonides in reconciling faith and reason. And I would, in fact, say to you that the problem of militant Islam today really stems in large part from the different choice that Averroes, who we both admire, and whose tomb or his monument we've both gone to, we have a mutual admiration for Andalusian Spain. And you remember, Averroes dealt with the problem of Aristotle how? He said, 2 truths. There's the truth of revelation, there's the truth of the natural world. And the two are completely different, proceed along different courses. We need not concern ourselves with their conflict. Aquinas, Maimonides, said, no, that's intellectual suicide. Truth is unitary. It must be reconciled, no matter how imperfectly. Without that act of reconciliation, there'd be no modernism, and you and I wouldn't be here discussing this tonight.
No, but I'm with you because I agree. Stephen Jay Gould is wrong in saying these are non-overlapping magisteria. They are, in fact, antagonistic. And people should be honest enough to say that it's one or the other, and one, in an honest argument, will have to concede or fall.
Do you know John Scotus Erigena? John Scotus Erigena, the great Irish theologian. He's the Carolingian.
You have the advantage of it.
Erigena, at the court of Charles the Bold, in the Carolingian court, said that truth and reason could never conflict, and that when they appeared to, it was the human duty to give the benefit of the doubt to reason, because it was our only tool of reckoning.
Well, To that extent, he conceded, and once that concession is made, I believe, as you may have found or suspect,